Hi, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of The Customer Edge, sponsored by SAP. I'm Butch Stearns of the Pulse Network. The Customer Edge is actually an entire community where we want your involvement. We strive on the Customer Edge to help you re-examine the customer experience that you're giving to your customers. And we do this with social engagement and collaboration from you in this community, partly through this show. The Customer Edge is a live monthly webisode where we dive deep into one particular topic on each show. And in this particular show, the topic is the future of customer engagement. And to have this discussion, we're joined in studio by SAP's Robert Rothschild and Johan Reed. Gentlemen, how are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Good to have you here. Now, you're both senior directors of product marketing. And when we're talking about the future of customer engagement, before we go into our crystal ball, let's go back. Let's go to the foundation, if we will, of some of the things that are fundamental, the principles of customer engagement and what they've always been. Robert, what are they?
Back to basics. Eh?
Back to basics, yeah.
Well, I mean, essentially, customer engagement is nothing more than the interactions that happen between a brand and the customers or prospects that it engages with. I think one of the fundamental things that's changed in the past 10, 20 years or so is the notion that it's not just between the brand and the customer, but it's between the brand and the customer and other customers, because those customers are now engaging with one another in that dialogue, and they're driving a lot of change within the business environment.
So while relationships and engagement have always been part of the core, the foundation, as he said, how have they changed over the years, Johan?
Well, you know, it's about trust and it's about relationship, to your point. I mean, if we go back, probably the first transactions that were done between the cave people were trusted relationship. I'm going to give you something, and I'm going to trust that what you give me in exchange is going to have equal value, and we're going to transact. And what's happened over time, I think business still runs on trust and on relationship, but now we have many more channels and many more media through which we can create these trusted relationships. There's also a lot more information available, and to your point, Robert, you know, there are relationships, new relationships that form between an individual customer and other customers of the same company. So these networked relationships are starting to appear, and I think they're much better facilitated by the technologies we have available now, as opposed to what was available even 15 years ago.
They are, and you know what, Johan, I couldn't agree with you more. The relationship aspect of this is incredibly important, but the other piece that's changed significantly, if you go back to caveman times, is the power in that relationship. I mean, for up until 10, 20 years ago, the power was always in the hands of the seller, and the buyer had to rely on information that was being provided by the seller in order to make informed decisions about what they chose to purchase. Now, there's a much higher level of trust among buyers of the information that they get from other buyers. I mean, it's available to everyone, it's always there, and you can get it wherever you are.
So as we start to talk about the future, the subject of the show of customer engagement, when we think about the shift in power from the seller to the buyer, or the shift to consumers, if you will, the ultimate buyer, right? And we think about the relationships and how you guys said, the relationships and relationships and relationships that are built around it, we start to paint a picture that technology is vital and it's important, but it's how you use that technology within your customer experience and customer engagement technologies, correct? So let's talk a little bit, because in this show, we're about to hear from different people and talk about the CIO perspective. We're also about to talk about the future of customer engagement from a technology perspective, wearable technologies and other stuff. So let's touch on that. Let's not steal what's about to come up, but let's touch on the future of technology and what role that plays in your customer engagement principles.
Sure. If you take a step back and you go back, you know, like I was saying, 10, 15 years ago, we were on the precipice of mobility and apps and social media, and all these things were just getting started. And the nature of relationships went from this transition of power from the seller to the buyer, and the idea of the networked relationship. And I think what we're going to see with technology going forward, it's tightly linked. The way that we create these relationships, the speed at which we build those relationships and interchange information with others, hinges on the technologies of tomorrow. And so as these new technologies develop, there are going to be new relationships formed that we haven't even thought about or understood. And I think that brands that aren't starting to think ahead about how they adopt these technologies and pushing the envelope with things like wearables, they're gonna find themselves being laggards, not necessarily in the technology race, but really in the relationship race.
That's true. Johan, you mentioned this a little bit earlier today when we were talking. I mean, do you think that what we're seeing today in terms of this consumer revolution that's happening, if you compare it to where we were in the industrial revolution, I mean, how far into this are we at this point? Is it just, I mean, I don't know.
We've got the steam engine, Robert. I mean, we are, I think, if you think about the industrial age, being a century plus, the information age is just getting kicked off. Yeah. We're in the second decade, I would argue. I think the late 90s brought us the very early phases of this, but we still have a long way to go. And I think people are waking up to the fact that the information that they have, their personal information, their details, their preferences, have value to businesses. And I also think that people are getting a lot smarter about how they consume media and information. And they are recognizing that there is so much information that they're developing these innate skills to filter out the stuff that they don't think is critical, that doesn't connect with them. People are auditioning music constantly now. You don't have to go to the record store anymore and try to listen to a track. You can get 30 seconds on YouTube and decide if you like the song or not, and you're moving on. And so selective listening.
My son does that too.
Well, and I think that's changing the way that people are consuming information, which changes the way that they build relationships with brands. If you don't have them in 30 seconds, you don't have them.
That's true. That's true.
So Johan, as you said, we're at the beginning stages, or wherever we are, of the information age. Talk a little bit more about how data makes a difference. We're about to hear momentarily from Jamie Anderson, Global VP of Product Marketing from SAP, who's going to talk more about this. But how does data make a difference in customer engagement and the way we do business now?
Well, and data, so we're talking about the information age, right? Data and information are power. And the more that I know about you, the better I can tailor that conversation and relationship. And without getting into what Jamie's going to talk about, it's making sure that we use this data to earn the right to establish that trust and that relationship. That is how data makes a difference. And it makes a difference to both the customer and to the seller or marketer or customer service person who's interacting with that individual. Robert?
Yeah, I mean, it's the fuel that drives that steam engine, right? I mean, without data about customers, you have no way to personalize the interactions, personalize the level of engagement, understand who they are, what they care about, what drives and motivates them to make a purchase decision or to remain loyal to your brand. So it's kind of at the center of everything.
So let's talk more about the next generation of consumer engagement. You are watching The Customer Edge. We're talking about the future of customer engagement. And here's Jamie Anderson, Global VP of Product Marketing for SAP. Hi everybody, I'm Butch Stearns of the Pulse Network for The Customer Edge. We're talking about the top trends in customer engagement. And specifically right now, we're going to talk about the future of the consumer experience, the customer experience, and how it's affecting the way we do business today. And to have this discussion, we bring in our good friend, Jamie Anderson of SAP. Hi Jamie, how are you?
I'm good, feeling good.
You're always good though.
Always, yeah.
So this is a subject you're passionate about. With your people at SAP. We've had many conversations about that. It's an ever-changing world with the consumer experience. So when I say that the future of customer engagement and the consumer experience today is changing the way we do business today, how is it?
Well, so many ways. Where do I start? Right, I'll tell you, one of the things that I think about a lot and that I hear about a lot is the convergence of kind of digital and physical. How do we make that happen? Because a while ago, everybody was telling us everything's going digital. Everybody's buying from Amazon.com. What's the role in the future of, of stores? We had this phenomenon coming out saying that retailers were dying because customers were showrooming. This whole concept of going out, and what they're doing is they're researching products online. They're going out then into the stores, and then they're looking at something. They're scanning it, scanning barcodes. they're reading product reviews in real time, and they're reversing purchase decisions based on the type of things they read in real time. Right. They're maybe finding that they can get that particular item round the corner cheaper. And to me, that it means that experience somehow has to match and engage the customer in the way digital experiences do. And that's a unique challenge.
Not only can we combine the virtual experience and the physical experience, but when it comes to learning about the customer and the customer learning about us, the customer comes in more educated, but so are we. So are we as the company. We can now gather more data, be more intelligent in our consumer experience, can't we?
Well, of course, and I think that's what makes a difference, because I think more and more consumers focus on this notion of, what's relevant for me. I mean, you think about it, Butch, we're surrounded by, digital display ads, televisions everywhere we go, doctors' waiting rooms, dentists, with your kids. Yeah. When you go out, everything is bombarding you with data and information. I think we're becoming, as consumers generally, very good at filtering that out, filtering the noise out. I did it when I was at university, and I studied mathematics. I wasn't very good at it, but I remember one thing, right? I remember the whole notion of signal to noise ratio. I think the opportunity exists with the data that's there today that can be mined in real time to actually, as a brand, become the signal for your consumer amongst the noise.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Now, we talk about it, I've got a smart TV at home, and I'm constantly frustrated, not by the TV, it looks beautiful, right? It's a lovely TV, but it's called a smart TV. It's called a smart TV because it connects to the internet, and it serves up all this kind of new digital content. But I still don't think there's anything smart about it. My 4-year-old can connect to the internet. Does that make them smart? Well, actually, that does make them pretty smart. That's pretty cool, right? But the thing is, I'm thinking about this in the context of how this could change advertising. Think about that data. My cable provider or my satellite provider knows what I watch, knows my likes, my dislikes. They know when I typically watch television. Now, like in the Burberry case, I might have more of a trusted relationship with them if I knew more about how they would use my data, right? And one of the things I'm thinking is the future for smart television, maybe it affects the future of advertising. If my television, right, is connected through the cloud to my schedule, my diary, it knows when I've got gaps in my diary, it knows what I like, it reminds me that a show's on live, it reminds me that I've taped something but I haven't watched it for 3 weeks. Tape. That's I was going to say, I think, 80s
our
man.
generation.
80s man. So, I have this gap in my schedule between 7 and 9 o'clock in the evening, and I'm sitting down and I'm going to watch this program. Now, they know that, they know everything I like, so why don't the adverts, even that they supply me on demand, why doesn't it map to my preferences? Why doesn't it know I've just come in from work? The first ad I see is for Domino's. I'm going to gesture towards the television, I'm going to open up the Domino's order screen, I'm going to order a pizza. Bang, it's going to be there in 20 minutes. Then I'm watching the show, and as they serve up this content on demand, they intersperse it with adverts that are relevant to my likes, my dislikes. Now, imagine being able to position that with every brand in the world, that you can do that. You can help them reach the customers that are going to make a difference for them.
Well, as you talk about intelligent data, as you talk about the new consumer experience and what it is, you said it's an opportunity for brands. Let me flip that around. It's also a challenge for companies in the way they do business today, because if you're not taking advantage of this, if you're bombarding them with things they're not interested in, the consumer's going to go elsewhere, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. Consumers are becoming incredibly aware of the value of the information about them. I kind of envisage this change, right? This complete flip in the existing business model on its head. For years we've heard B2B. And then, are you in the B2B business? Are you in the B2C? Does B2C and the trends in B2C, does that affect B2B and blah, blah, and you go on and round in circles. With consumers being in control, and once they really start to understand the value of the information about themselves, maybe we flip a new model. Maybe we're talking about a world where the network is a consumer-driven network, where you've got this C2B model, and they allow the brands that they trust to interact with them through this medium, right? This is not about being bombarded. This is about me placing the ultimate filter. This is what I want to know about, and you cannot get in here.
talking about the future of consumer experience here on the Customer Edge. I'm Butch Stearns of the Pulse Network. Alongside is Jamie Anderson, who is the Global Vice President of Product Marketing for SAP. We're rolling up our sleeves for this conversation to get deep into it. All right, Jamie, you've talked a lot from the consumer side, but at SAP, you guys do most of your business at the B2B level. So how is the new consumer experience, the digital consumer experience, how is it changing the way or affecting the way from a B2B level that the corporate sales environment is happening now?
I think one of the things about this is, and we spoke about this personalization, we spoke to a degree about, predictability and the ability to predict the outcomes. Now that is massively powerful in a B2B complex selling motion, because there's so many moving parts. There's so many, permutations of how a deal could happen. We have the ability right now to actually to visualize. For a sales guy, we're moving beyond kind of CRM and Salesforce automation at this point, which is kind of like putting information into a database. We're actually working on the value of that information across the entire enterprise. So
Intelligence again.
it comes back to that, smart TVs, taking that to the next level, that ability, that intelligence that you should have about your customers to provide something of real value. For the sales guy doesn't want to be sitting in front of a computer or on an iPad or whatever, consistently entering information. It's like, so I've entered a lot of information. What is this telling me about my accounts, about my potential for success in these deals? To the level where now we should be looking at it to say, okay, look at my deals for the next quarter. Where's the highest propensity of success? Where are the deals that are stalling? Where are the ones where I can make an intelligent intervention? Who do I need in my team that can actually improve the chance of success? And based on former success profiles for deals, i.e. who was involved, who was the partner, who from the team did the demo, who connected best with the customer, if I can pull these people into my team, does this move me from a 45% chance of success to a 70, 80% chance of success? And it's about bringing those analytics and those insights through and applying them to the B2B selling motion that I think, changes the game significantly.
So let's finish with a final game-changing thought. You've created this picture that the digital consumer experience is one where the consumers have the power. And when it comes to customer engagement, when it comes to a brand, when it comes to a company and the way we do business, there is the challenge and the opportunity to have customer engagement at a different level, at a smarter level, one that's in a real-time environment. You need to be there now. You need to be there yesterday. So to wrap it all up, to talk about that from the way we do business, from that perspective, when it comes to customer engagement, this is an exciting time, isn't it, Jamie?
I think it could not be more exciting. I mean, we are seeing technologies, we're seeing wearable technology, augmenting, kind of like the physical world with a digital world. All of these pieces converging. I think the opportunity for engagement is much higher than it's ever been before. It has to be about engaging customers, cutting through that noise, becoming the signal that the customers are looking for, understanding the signal when it appears in the customer world, which is going to help you move your product and move your brand to a level of kind of customer advocacy and love. And this is what it comes down to. It's about creating compelling experiences, because the differentiator in this world we live in today is how people connect emotionally with the brands and the products that they have. If you can create that, you move beyond commodity.
He is the Global Vice President of Product Marketing for SAP, Jamie Anderson. Jamie, great to see you again, my friend.
Good to see you again.
All right, I'm glad we rolled up our sleeves for this conversation.
I am too, yeah. It's one of the few times where my skin actually sees sunlight.
The future of the consumer experience and the top trends in customer engagement. Thank you for being a part of this conversation on the Customer Edge. So we just heard Jamie Anderson talk about how exciting a time it is when it comes to customer engagement. How about a comment from both of you guys about exactly that? It is an exciting time because there are great opportunities, but also great challenges, aren't there?
Oh, totally agree. I mean, the technology that's available today is just mind-blowing in terms of what it's capable of doing. But man, is it really difficult to make that stuff work properly, and you need a lot of help for it as well.
You know, I think Jamie's point about the signal to noise ratio, going back to what we were talking about earlier with, you know, people have this filter and they're getting better at filtering the noise out and seeking that signal. And you know, but the converse has to also be true. Companies have to get better at creating a unique signal that the customer can pick up on and pull in.
So let's talk more about what Jamie started with, the convergence of the digital and the physical part of it. It's more prominent in retail, for example, because you have brick and mortar storefronts and an online storefront. But this is analogous to anybody that does business on a B2B, B2C, whatever level, right? So when we talk about the convergence of digital and physical, talk about the challenges that are there, or the opportunities, Johan, for brands and for companies to do business, what they have to be thinking about.
You know, it's fascinating when you look at companies that have both a retail brick and mortar presence and an online presence, and you look at the experience and whether that experience crosses over. And I think those companies are showing us, in some cases, what's working, and in other cases, what's not working, in terms of converging those two experiences. Because you can go to a retailer online and have one experience, and go to that retailer store and have a completely different experience, right? And now what you find yourself thinking, at least what I found myself thinking when I was in that situation recently, was, can't I take the best part of your online experience and bring that with me into your store so that I can have kind of the best of both worlds? I can go in, I can get hands-on with the device that I'm interested in, I can look at it, I can experience it in person, but then I get all of those benefits, the recommendations, the customer reviews, all of the stuff that I'm accustomed to in an online experience at the same time. I think that's a big challenge that companies are trying to sort out right now, and if they don't figure that out soon, I think that the companies that don't figure that out are going to be left behind.
Well, and Johan, sorry, Robert, but you wrote a blog about this recently, how to lose a customer and 5 ways to win in 2014. And Robert, one of the things Johan talked about is how digital engagement will be a big thing, but it's not the only thing, no. to the point of what we're talking about here.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting, this convergence concept between the physical world and the virtual world. It's not entirely new. It's been around for a little while, but I think what's really pushed it more than anything is this notion of there's benefits that you get from each of those experiences. Mm-hmm. There's not one right answer for everyone, and what we're finding actually is that there's some generational shifts between whether or not someone prefers to have that online experience versus the physical real world experience in a store. Gen X and boomers typically tend to prefer that instant gratification and the look and feel experience that they get when they walk into a physical retail store, whereas millennials, they have grown up in an environment where it just doesn't make sense to do that. I mean, why would I walk into a store and talk to somebody who doesn't know anything about anything when I can just go online and get access to everything?
But do you think, Robert, if the retailer manages to bridge that gap, to bring the experience that the millennial is looking for, that online experience, if they manage to bring that into the store, do you think that they could bring that millennial in?
I do. I think that, what you just described, is the future of retail. That's what most physical brick and mortar retailers are striving for right now, to be able to augment that physical experience that you get when you walk into a store with the ability to get access to instant reviews and virtual visualizations of the products, price comparisons, all sorts of other things that you typically would have in that online experience combined in the store itself.
You are watching The Customer Edge, sponsored by SAP. The subject of today's show is the future of customer engagement. And as we talk about the convergence of digital and physical, I think it also leads us back into that discussion about the shift in power. With the power with consumers now, they have the power to put out what information they want. They also have the power to, we're very selective in who we choose as brands, because brands aren't choosing us anymore, we're choosing them, right? So talk a little bit more about that when it comes to customer engagement and the future of it. That shift in power, when you combine the convergence of the digital and physical, it really has to be at the core, at the forefront of your thinking, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, there's this, Johan, you mentioned it earlier, the selective filtering concept. I think we're in an era now where customers truly understand the value that their data brings to that relationship, and they're selectively choosing which brands they want to keep within that inner circle of the relationship that they have between in that buying relationship.
And I think that's also, it's influenced, again, to the point you made earlier about social networks, it's influenced largely by opinion, right? We are social creatures. We tend to ask, and before social media existed, you had a small circle of friends who you would ask to start to develop this opinion about a brand. And so I think there's a combination of the experience, bringing the online, bringing that virtual experience into the physical, but also bringing in that social network. And you have to provide as a brand. It's no longer good enough for you to talk about you, right? Tell me more about me, or let me tell you more about me, isn't really what the customer wants. What they want is, tell me what other customers think. Share that information with me, because information is power, knowledge is power. And so the companies that position themselves as a broker of information, you know what, I have reviews on my website, and I can make those available to you in the store. Come on in. That will win over, come on in and one of my moderately trained salespeople will try to educate you about something that you've already researched online.
A little bit more from both of you on this. Again, let's go back to your blog you wrote recently, How to Lose a Customer and 5 Ways to Win in 2014, because you just brought up a couple of points from that. So go back to that blog and specifically how to win in the future, 2014 and beyond now.
Well, part of it is the idea of the customer experience being seamless. Right? An unbroken customer experience is what is going to become table stakes. It's going to become the norm. We are going to expect to have the ability to start out online, go into a store, and then walk out and maybe even make a phone call to get customer support and have that be a complete seamless interaction. The idea, like you brought up earlier, that digital engagement is a big thing, but it's not the only thing. So the brands that recognize that they have to go beyond digital, those are the brands that are going to win. Those are just a couple of the points from the blog, but I think to me, those are the key ones. And part of that is because of the experience that I had recently at a retailer where it was a completely broken experience.
So when we look at the future of customer engagement, how about a comment from you on that, Robert, beyond his blog? How do you win going forward? What are we focusing on here?
Well, at the end of the day, I think it's still about going back to basics. You have to listen to what customers are saying, understand what their needs are, and adapt the way that you craft that buying experience so that it maps the way that buyers buy today. Another interesting example, I was at a conference recently and I heard 2 interesting acronyms, BOPUS and BORUS. Okay, BOPUS and BORUS. So,
the world needs more acronyms.
Okay, yeah. So BOPUS is buy online, pick up in store.
Okay.
And BORUS is buy online, return in store. So these are 2 examples of how physical retailers are combining the online and the digital world to make it more convenient for people to actually transact business with
So
them.
bogus was not a term to go
Bogus
along with?
wasn't. No, I don't know what that one was. But
Is that like BOGO?
it could be.
We can't talk about the future of customer engagement without talking about technology. And to do that and to get our comments from Johan and Robert in studio, let's go back to a previous conversation we had in this studio with myself and Johan, specifically about wearable technology and how it can change the way we do business. Here you go. Hi everybody, I'm Butch Stearns for the Customer Edge. We're here today talking about the top trends in customer engagement, and specifically we're talking about wearable technology, and not the gadgets of it and what it can do, but how it's changing the way we do business. And to have this conversation, we bring in Johan Reed, Senior Director of Product Marketing for SAP. How are you, Johan?
Good, Butch. How are you?
I'm great. You're excited about talking about this topic.
I'm thrilled. This is awesome.
So we know what we're talking about here. We're talking about Google Glasses and we're talking about watches and wearable technology. But when it comes to what all these cool gadgets can do for us as consumers, let's focus the conversation on how it's going to change the way we do business. How is it changing the way we do business?
Well, Butch, it's fundamentally changing the experience in the real world by bringing information and the experience that people have in the online world out and overlaying that over the world that we live in day to day. So it's overlaying visual information. It's bringing information instead of me having to turn my phone on to get something. It's on my wrist. I'm constantly looking there, and it's presenting a lot more than just the time.
So how is it going to change the way, or how is it already changing the way that companies do business and create better customer engagement?
Sure. So, I mean, let's start with customer service, right? What's the best customer service experience you can have when you have a problem?
You want me to answer?
Yeah.
The best customer service is somebody right away getting back to me and then having a pleasurable experience and resolving my conflict on my problem.
Seamless, quick,
Yes.
right? You want something fast. If you're having a problem with an appliance, you want someone to come out to your house and find the problem quickly,
But wait a
solve
minute,
it on
let
the
me
first
interrupt you.
try.
By the way, I expect a bad experience. Doesn't every consumer going in expect a bad experience?
Unfortunately, yeah. By and
Okay.
large, we've been trained to expect that.
Okay.
And so if you think about the implication of wearable technology here, when that technician shows up, right? Imagine a smart refrigerator. It's talking to the technician. It says, I have a bad pump in my compressor. Right? So the technician shows up at your doorstep, knows exactly what model you have, knows exactly what part is the problem. They can go right to their truck, grab the right piece. They can go into your house without a manual, without anything. They can look at the refrigerator and get the information about, this is the compressor. How do I disassemble it? Okay, right away, overlaid over their visual. So it takes the time out of the whole engagement.
So when we're talking about trends in customer engagement, and we're talking specifically about customer service and what wearable technology can do for you, it seems to me that there was a time, probably a long time ago now, where customer service might have been, yeah, well, we don't have to really focus on. You can't afford to do that anymore. You have to be pristine in your customer service because everybody in the audience has an audience, and they're going to be out there talking about you and talking about their experience. So again, focusing this back to wearable technology and specifically on customer service, how can this help me as a company provide a better experience in customer service? Give me some other examples.
Well, it makes it transparent, right? It makes the whole experience go faster, more smoothly. The technician, the customer service person knows who you are. They have all the information right, literally not even at their fingertips, right in their eyeball. They can see this information, and it speeds that whole process. It allows them to come to you, be much more efficient, and make sure that the problem is resolved the right way the first time. Because again, the machine that's having the problem is talking to them, telling them where the problem is. So gone is the day of the technician showing up going, well, I'm going to have to spend 20 minutes digging into the problem here to just tell you what's wrong with it. They can walk into your house knowing where the problem's going to be, and they can solve it for you right away, which you'll then go and post about on Facebook and talk about how great that experience was.
Of course I will. Let's talk about marketing and sales. Again, we're talking about wearable technology and how it can affect your customer engagement. When it comes to marketing, talk us through that. What are the advantages for marketers today?
So I think marketing is the flip side of that coin, right? So in customer service, we talked about the technician being the person who's wearing this to create a more seamless experience for the customer. In this case, marketers can leverage these technologies that consumers are adopting, because after all, who doesn't love to buy new gadgets and get all this stuff going, right? So as the marketer sees the consumers adopting this, they can start to add all this rich online information. So think about the Amazon experience, right? You're looking at a product, you can flip it, you can rotate it, you can see what it looks like in 14 different colors, you can see it in different sizes, you can see other people's photos, how they're using that same product, right? Now think about a window shopping experience. You're walking down Madison Avenue, New York, you're walking down, looking in the storefronts, right? And you're seeing one side. You're seeing one side of that article of clothing. You have no idea what colors it comes in. You have no idea what other options there are. You don't know how it'll look on you, right? So now think about looking at that same store window through Google Glass, where you can see all the styles, all the colors, all the options. You can see the back side of it. You can see other people wearing it. And you can then make a buying decision. And even if the store is closed, you can still buy it.
So let's go back to the original thing you said to start this whole conversation. You talked about the online experience now in the actual world, and that's, of course, we're always trying to do that in business. But for a marketer who wants to offer promotions, who wants to offer specials, who wants to have a unique, customized, personalized customer experience and customer engagement with that customer, again, the possibilities are endless here.
Absolutely
to be able to do
endless.
it with wearable technology.
Absolutely endless. Again, think about walking down the aisle in the grocery store, right? So retailers have the opportunity, they can help. You put in your grocery list and you get little waypoints and you're walking through the grocery store and literally you can just walk from waypoint to waypoint. But as you're walking down the aisle, incentives and promotions are literally jumping off the shelf at you, right? And it might make suggestions like Amazon again, hey, if you're picking up chips, make sure you have soda. And so, and by the way, there's a sale on this kind of soda. So, that's where the marketer has the opportunity to really adopt these technologies and bring a much, much richer experience to the consumer. And the companies that do that first, the companies that are starting to think about how do they engage the consumer now, they're going to be the ones that are going to win.
We're talking about the top trends in customer engagement. We're talking specifically about wearable technology and how it's affecting the way we do business today. I'm Butch Stearns of the Pulse Network. This is Johan Reed of SAP for the Customer Edge. Johan, let's now talk about corporate sales. How is wearable technology and the way we're going to do business affecting the corporate sales environment?
If you think about corporate selling, it's all about relationships, right? So when you're in a corporate context, a lot of the trust and the confidence comes from the individual who's doing the selling. And the way you establish that is by finding common connections. So let's take an example. Let's say you and I are going to have a sales interaction. I'm coming to your office and you hand me a business card. Today, I look at it, I memorize your name, and I put the card in my pocket. In the future, I'll be able to look at that card and immediately have it scanned in and hit my LinkedIn to see if we have any connections in common. So that in the span of seconds, I can go from being introduced to Butch for the first time to, hey, did you know that we went to school with so-and-so? Or did you work, I saw Bill, you worked with Bill at that company, and I've worked with Bill before. And suddenly we have that more personal connection. And then I can get more data, right? I can pull that data out of the virtual world into a real-time interaction, and I can add value to you. Maybe I have the stock ticker of your company in my Google Glass or on my watch. I can look down and go, hey, wow, you guys reported earnings today. Great. Can't believe it. It's driving the market valuation of your company, and let's talk about how I can help you in a business context do better. Right?
Well, let me give you another example. To me, people always say good talkers are good salesmen. No, good listeners are good salespeople. So when you learn something about them, what if they're talking about their love for the Red Sox or their favorite team or what their kid does? You could immediately get some customized information without being corny, try to make a personal connection with them with the wearable technology.
Well,
right?
but I mean, that goes beyond real time, right? It's coming in informed ahead of time. And we have a lot of information about ourselves, and I think there's a whole other topic of discussion about privacy and how much information we share. But there's a lot of information about us online, and so when I come in to talk to you, I can already find out about you. What do you like? What teams do you support? I can, look at your profile and get all this information about you and really be armed. And today, we have the ability to do that and get that on the iPhone. In our applications today. The big advantage will be that I'll have it here. I won't have to look away from you. I'll be able to constantly keep eye contact with you, but have this additional information that makes our conversation richer.
All right, let's finish with this. You've painted a picture that consumers have the power now. We're always on, we're socially enabled, we 24/7. It's only getting enhanced with wearable technology. We're talking specifically about customer engagement and the way we do business today and how wearable technology is changing that. So when it comes to customer engagement, finish up with a summary or a thought about how it is changing customer engagement and the demand for that with this always on, 24/7, socially armed consumer.
Yeah, if we look at the technologies of today, right, and we think about the change that has happened to the customer just with these kinds of technologies, right, they're so well informed. They have access to more information at their fingertips 24 hours a day, like you said. And that's driving the need for better engagement, richer engagement from companies to break through and get the attention of the consumer and keep that attention and create advocates. Companies that aren't thinking about the next wave of technology that's going to drive the next set of changes in how we engage, if they're not thinking about that today, they're going to be left behind when that technology starts to really be broadly adopted.
Great talking with you, Johan.
It's my pleasure, Butch.
You should be a little passionate about this. He is Johan Reed of SAP. I'm Butch Stearns. We thank you for being a part of this conversation on the Customer Edge. Wearable technology always seemed like something that was coming. Well, it's here, as we all know. So as we bring in Robert and Johan again, Robert, how about a comment from what Johan was talking about with that? And maybe a comforting thought for our audience, because technology can tend to make you feel like I'll always be catching up. But how do you rationalize that mindset? Or what's a comforting thought for our audience with that?
Well, I mean, that's a true statement. And technology, by its sheer nature, will always be evolving. And if you're one of those people that's always on the leading edge and adopting the latest technology and putting it into practice, fantastic. Power to you. But it's not too late at this point. I mean, most companies are just starting this journey. They're looking at opportunities where they can plug in various pieces of technology to help enhance the overall customer experience, but not everybody is there yet. So you're not in a very small minority at this point. Everybody is struggling with this.
So you need a mindset of the old Steve Jobs mentality, is technology is really about what it can do for you or what it can do for your customer when it comes to customer engagement. So Johan, if I'm a business leader, if I'm in marketing or I'm in sales, again, how much technology do I actually have to stay up with? Do I have to lead my organization into this new age? Do I have to have a Google Watch for all my salespeople?
Well, the reality is that if you're in marketing, you probably are into all of the trick gadgets. But the thing is that marketers need to be experts in marketing, and salespeople need to be experts in sales, and customer service people really need to focus on customer service. And you bring up a great point, Butch, because we're at a point now where technology is so omnipresent. Everybody's starting to go, how much of this do I have to learn and figure out and push down into my team? And what I would say is that there's a whole organization in the enterprise that is often not even thought about when it comes to this kind of technology, customer engagement technology. It's the IT department. The guys who everybody thinks about as running the database and doing email and fixing your laptop, the CIO can actually play a really important role in lifting the burden off of the line of business leaders and helping them as an advisor choose and implement innovative technologies to connect with their customers.
So this would be the perfect time to have some advice for people in their organizations if they're having trouble breaking down that silo, getting to the CIO and having them adopt this mindset, correct?
Now would be the best time to get some of that advice.
Let's tee it up. If you are a CIO or you need to play nice with one, you need some advice, and we've got it. Here is a true industry thought leader when it comes to the CIO's perspective. His name is Michael Kruegers, and he has what you need to know from a CIO's perspective. This is Michael's 5 steps to helping you make IT a rock star.
Hello, I'm Michael Kruegers, an analyst and co-host of CXO Talk, and here are my 5 steps to help you make IT a rock star. Step number 1, you've got to deliver things on time. You've got to deliver those projects on time and within budget. If you don't have the basics down, for example, security, if you don't have this stuff down, then how in the world will you establish credibility? How are you going to gain relevancy to the business? You've got to start with the basics, with the core foundation, deliver your projects on time, within budget, make sure security is in place. It's the basics, and start there. Step number 2, establish strategic relationships. If you don't know what the business does, then how can you support the business? And the only way to make that happen is spend time talking with marketing, talking with other lines of business inside the company, get to know them, become their friend, support them. That means relationship. Go do it. Step number 3, measure the outcomes. As an IT person, You're used to talking about system uptime and system loads. Do you think the CMO cares about that? Not at all. The CMO is interested in lead conversion and what are our hit rates on various digital marketing assets. This is the language that you need to speak, and these are the metrics that you need to develop. So listen to the business, talk with the business, understand what's important to them, and follow metrics, develop metrics that matter to the business. Here's the fourth step: drive innovation. You've got to get involved with the business, as I was just saying, and figure out how to work with the business to make the company run better. Work with the CMO and figure out what they need, but then improve it. Think of yourself as a chief innovation officer or a chief digital officer. Think of your role in a much more expansive way than just the chief infrastructure officer. It's not about feeds and speeds, it's about driving business change. And my final point, number 5, is connect externally. Many CIOs and many folks in IT are used to internal groups as your stakeholders. In today's world, it's time to think about the role of IT in supporting the customer. What does that mean for IT? How can IT help generate revenue for the business and drive customer satisfaction? That's the ultimate challenge, supporting the core mission of the organization. Security projects, that's table stakes. Go way beyond that to actually supporting what the company does. I'm Michael Kruegers, an analyst and co-host of CXO Talk, and I've just given you 5 key steps to turn your IT team into a rock star. I hope you listen. I hope you follow that advice.
So there you go, your 5 tips on how to make IT a rock star. All right, Robert Rothschild and Johan Reed from SAP. Let's have some takeaways for this show, the future of customer engagement here on this latest episode of The Customer Edge. My first takeaway, the future is now. Comment on that, you guys.
It's already here. It's been here for a long time, actually. But my key takeaway would be that the key is understanding how to apply it so that you can enhance the customer experience.
You know, I think I agree. I think it's a mindset thing. It's about, you know, knowing how to apply it, but also being comfortable with the fact that the future will always be now. Tomorrow will become now, and the pace isn't going to slow down. The customers aren't going to fundamentally change, but the process around them will always be changing. And so you just have to get comfortable with the fact that things are going to change, and they're going to change quickly. And you need to factor that in when you're thinking about your engagement strategy.
But I think part of the danger of just the topic of this show, the future of customer engagement, part of the danger if you're out there and you're thinking about doing business today is the future sort of alludes to, well, it's coming. No, it's here, right? Yeah, it's what's going on right now.
I think the key is just start. Pick something. Find one piece of the buying experience. Look at the way that your customers engage with your business. Pick one little piece that you can improve and just start there.
It's a great point. Second takeaway from this show on the future of customer engagement, technology. We've talked a lot about technology. Technology is your friend, is it not?
It's the enabler, right? Technology is the way that we all interact now. So you have to make it your friend. If you don't feel like it's your friend now, you have to go out and you have to make technology your friend. And like Michael said, you can grab IT and say, come with me on this journey. But ultimately, technology is the future now, and it can be very, very powerful and facilitate a real engagement with your customer.
And there's a lot of value in embracing it. I mean, don't be afraid. Technology is there to help you. It can help you make deeper, more meaningful personal connections with your customers, and everybody should be taking advantage of whatever they can.
Yeah.
And I think our final takeaway that I'd like you guys to comment on is that Jamie talked about this. He talked about the fact that, cutting through all the noise. But really it's under this one umbrella that when it comes to the future of customer engagement, it's still about the basics. It's still all about the relationship and the connections, right?
I think, when we just talked about technology, right now we're talking about relationships. the relationship has to shine through. There are lots of channels out there and there are lots of technologies, and those are going to change and transform. But at the end of the day, that all needs to become transparent, because people, this is, I spent a lot of time in sales, and it was always people buy from people. And at the end of the day, that's the connection that they're looking for, and the technology becomes transparent. You don't even think about it anymore. It's just how I'm connecting with someone on the other end of the line. And companies have to be very careful. Companies can't forget that it's not just a customer. There's a human on the other end of that line.
I mean, business has and always has been about relationships, and the human connection is what differentiates a fantastic company from an also-ran. So I think technology can just enable the folks within your organization to create some amazing enhancing capabilities that can enhance that relationship.
And these are ongoing conversations, and conversations you can continue to have at our community, The Customer Edge. There it is right there, thecustomeredgetv.com, sponsored by SAP. It's a community where we strive to help you re-examine the customer experience that you're providing to your customers. We do it with social engagement and collaboration from you in this community. So thank you for being a part of this conversation and the latest episode of The Customer Edge. We'll see you next time.